How are you?
Hey Matt, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm Dominique. I'm a project manager with Sideshow.
Oh, great. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Figured I'd hop on a little bit early.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the second event, right? There was one earlier with George Tannenbaum.
Yeah, that's right.
How'd that go?
I didn't join. I'm on the West Coast, so that was like mid-work day for me.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you sharing your screen? Well, that will stay open to this kind of frame.
Yeah, no, just as people are kind of joining so they know they're in the right spot, and then I'll pass over to you and make you like the host of the meeting.
Perfect. I don't think I'll do much different, but I'll get rid of my face there. Hey, David. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for hopping on. We'll give people some time. I know I joined a little early. We're all kind of rolling in slowly, so we'll give people a few minutes before we dive in. I see Katelyn just joined, a few others, so can give everyone some time.
Sweet.
How's it going, Katelyn? You might be on mute.
You're right. I was.
There we go.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for hopping on. The mute thing, it's like the one thing our brains just don't register. I still do it every day. I don't get it.
Oh, it's not because I'm so used to creating the Zoom. So I feel like if you create the Zoom, you're not automatically on mute. So it's like one of these things you have to get used to when you're not in control.
It's like such a brain trip.
It really is. Are we done doing this yet? Can we
I
get back to
cannot
doing
wait
live
till we're
stuff?
finished.
But now it's live. I'm in the office now 3 days a week, but
Yeah.
I'm in the office and some people are still home. So you like have 3 people in the person meeting, but you're still on Teams, and then it's like double echoes all around. It's now we got to figure that out. The hybrid half and half meetings is the
Yeah.
new.
It doesn't work.
It's weird. I don't know who to look at. I like look half of the screen and half of the people around me. It's weird.
Honestly, if we're being vulnerable, most of the time I'm trying not to just like look at myself when I'm talking, you know?
Same.
And I work from home. Have worked from home for forever. And now I'm like, oh, I get it. Put me in a cubicle prison. I'd love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny though, like I have different distractions now and I do go into the office because I'm so excited to see people. I'm like a shelter dog that's like being let out for the first time. And I'm just like, oh my God, do you want to get lunch? Do you want to hang out? You want to get coffee? You want to walk? You want to do anything with me, please? So it's like impossible to get stuff done, but I do welcome the human connection.
Oh, the first few days it's been impossible. It's like anyone who walks by, it's like, oh, hey, 20 minutes later. Okay, back to work. Someone
How's
else.
your last 2 years then?
Right?
Totally. So tell me about your trauma.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where are you on the scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
We'll give people still a few moments to hop in. I think Josh told me there were like 40 or so people who signed up, which
Oh, right.
he said was the most so far. It's not a competition, but I'll turn it into a competition.
I did bribe about 30 of those people. So
Yes.
There we go. I was going to say, I had nothing to do with it. It's all you, David, and Bianca for joining who attract the people. I just post about it. We'll give a few more minutes, and I know Bianca's still joining. But thank you all for hopping on. Really excited to talk about some side projects. Should be a lot of fun. We'll give a few more minutes, and then we'll kind of dive in. And we can get rid of my face being the thumbnail. And somehow this is the picture that my art director like circulates for me with glasses. I'm not as douchey as this image makes me seem. I promise. I don't usually wear sunglasses indoors.
I feel like this picture makes me feel like you're about to pitch me a screenplay and I'm into it.
Just wait, that's for after the session.
Awesome.
And then I see Bianca just joined. How's it going, Bianca?
Hi guys, how's it going?
Good. I said maybe we give it 3 more minutes till 8:05. Let a few more people trickle in, and then we can jump in. Dominique, let me know if we're still expecting more. We'll wait a little before we start off. Dominique's project managing all of this.
Everyone. Yeah, we'll give it a couple more minutes. We've got 18 people on the horn at the moment.
Great. Yeah, Josh said around 40, so we'll wait till it goes up a bit more. And this is the second event. There was one earlier today with George Tannenbaum. I'm not sure at what time, but supposedly went well. I was not there.
Nice. Can you guys hear my screaming child right now?
hmm,
No screaming kids.
He wasn't happy about me not putting him to bed today.
Oh,
great soundproofing in your apartment, though. We can't hear a
Okay,
thing. Yeah.
It doesn't even look like a 2 square inch apartment, New York apartment. Mm.
so how about those sports teams? That's my conversation starter as a professional question asker.
Yeah, those animals, the birds, they really did one last night.
I mean, did you see what that one man did with the sports stick? That was impressive.
Let me plug in my computer.
I feel like Succession is the new sports talk, though.
I haven't started watching the new season. Just because like I was at a bar recently with a bunch of finance bros and I was like, oh, I need just like a little bit of a spacer before I get
Were
back.
you there on purpose or lost?
I was forced to hang out with some friends of my boyfriend's, and it was it was crazy. I was like, oh, this performance of like greed is awesome. It's
Nice.
crazy.
I do like being back at my apartment alone, not forced to see anyone. This is why.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
I'm
tried
actually
the
ashamed-
I feel like this COVID thing turned us, at least for me, like it made the bridge from like extending my adolescence to like just being a grown up. And I was like, no, if someone invites me out at 9 o'clock, I ask them, is it 9 o'clock dark or 9 o'clock light? Because if it's dark, I'm in bed already, you know?
2 hours past being in bed watching something. No more.
It's a miracle I don't have my eye mask on right now.
Oh, I like eye masks.
I was doing a full sheet mask about 45 minutes ago. So
Respect.
we're not, yeah, we're not.
I tried flushing my hair in one direction, but didn't work as much. I think we can maybe jump in. Dominique, what do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll switch over the hosting powers that be to you.
Yeah, let's remove my face as this placeholder, please.
Yeah, I like it.
Right, I don't like staring at myself. It's old very quickly, but still can't. But I don't know if you've handed me hosting powers, but we can jump in anyways. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. I know 8 p.m. on a Monday is a little late, although it feels already like it's Wednesday or Thursday. Thanks for hopping on, coming to listen. You know, my name is Matthew Lowe. I'm a ACD at BBDO, been there for around 7 years, and I'm the founder of Bouncing Back, a podcast that lets people who have lost their job during COVID-19 sell themselves to recruiters in the ad industry. Last year, I won Best in Show in podcasts and kind of the inaugural Sideshow Awards. So I was the token choice to kind of host this panel. I'm calling it this year, Is This Working? And I think for me, it's always a combination of talking about side projects, but ultimately the end goal is using those side projects or figuring out how you can use them to land a job. I think that's, you know, the angle I'm taking here is, you know, side projects are amazing, but do you want to use them as kind of an outlet for creativity? Do you want to use them as an outlet to ultimately land you a job? And that's really what we'll kind of be, you know, discussing today. Thankfully, we've got some amazing people on the panel who, you know, each bring totally unique experience to what we'll be talking about. Before we jump in, do want to give a quick thank you to Josh and Sunita and the entire Sideshow team for taking the initiative to start these awards last year and put in all the work that you do. Josh actually got married on Saturday, and I swear he was texting me up until like he walked down the aisle about this and the Sideshow Awards in general. So both of them, total rock stars, really happy to be doing this to help kick off the first day of Creativity Week. Here with us today, I'll go one by one. We first have Katelyn Johnson, who has been the director of creative recruiting at Wieden & Kennedy, New York for almost 5 years now. Before that, she was at Arnold Worldwide and a few other agencies like McKinney and Digitas. She's good at pretending to eat healthy, making friends on the subway, and bragging about her dog Hazel. And she also does sheet masks before Zooms, which I love. But so happy to have you here. Maybe give a little hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I was paranoid no one would show up at all tonight. So I'm really happy to see lots of familiar and friendly faces on this Zoom. Yeah, I still am pretending to eat healthy, still a fan of my dog Hazel, although she was a nightmare today. And I still do make friends on the subway, even though I've been locked in quarantine for about 2 years. But yeah, I've been at Wieden for almost 5 years now. Seen the agency change, grow so much. And a lot of that has to do with how we've sort of reevaluated how we look at people's work, you know, side projects included. So I'm happy to be here tonight and kind of spew any knowledge I can on the subject.
Yeah, amazing. Really, really happy to have you here. Second, we have David Perez, who is the owner and founder of his own consultancy and recruiting firm called the Peresidency. I just love that name and tying that in. Well done all around. But before that, he was a creative recruiter at Venables and Partners, AKQA, and Leo Burnett. I stalked his LinkedIn a little and read some of the recommendations that your friends wrote about you. And I was like, one, jealous that I don't have as good friends like that, because they were saying things like, David is an incredible guy, you know, personally and professionally. The two traits that make him a great guy to be around are his intelligence and thoughtfulness, which, I mean, just intelligence, thoughtfulness. I wish I had, again, friends who would speak highly like that of me and at least put them on my LinkedIn without having to pay them to do so. So appreciate that. Maybe give a little hello to everyone.
Hi, everybody. You should know how many comments I've deleted from LinkedIn from my enemies. I'm joking. I'm David. I'm so glad to be here, echoing like everything that Katelyn said. I think one of the things that excites me the most about this, on top of like being someone who like has spent the last 7 years independently helping people manage their careers, is that I'm also somebody who has a creative life outside of advertising. And so I live another side project as well, which is like I'm a stand-up comedian. And I think the best thing that we can do in this scenario tonight is like really I don't know, help you. I would love to be a resource for anybody who's trying to navigate their career. Cause I think like that's generosity should be the engine that that this industry runs on.
Yeah, I love that. That's definitely something I've seen throughout COVID. Like the LinkedIn and advertising community has just gotten so much tighter, which is a nice little positive out of all the madness that, finally we're realizing that we should be lifting each other up. While it is, a competition to see who ultimately gets the job, we all should, raise each other up and all kind of help each other out. So love that. Love that we'll kind of string that through this discussion. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Bianca Guimaraes, who I've had the pleasure of working with at BBDO, total industry icon, and has won every award you can probably think of, including an Emmy for outstanding commercial for her back to school essentials for Sandy Hook last year. After kind of mastering her craft at BBDO, she decided, like any sane person, that a pandemic was the perfect opportunity to leave and join Mischief as a partner and ECD. She definitely did not make a bad choice, as the agency's on a hot streak, creating amazing work for a ton of different clients. So Bianca, say a little hello to everyone.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. This is great. I'm really happy to be here. And as a creative who spent years and years trying to think of what the perfect side project would be and never ended up doing any, I think I have some advice to give you guys. It's very good to be here.
Love that. We will definitely tap into that advice and get it all. Maybe I'll start with you, Katelyn, just because, it's been known, you've said it, I've heard it before, that Widen is known for looking beyond portfolios to see, what prospective talent is doing outside the industry, whether it's side projects or creating music or, taking photographs, whatever it is they do outside of work. Why do you all, put such a focus on side projects?
Well, I think there's a few reasons for that, and some are a little bit better than others. But I think when you've been in the business for a little bit, you're not always going to get the best creative at bats that a lot of people would at a lot of agencies. So I think it's unfair to base someone's portfolio solely upon the work they're afforded the opportunity to make at their current agencies, because I don't think it's any secret to any of us on this call. It's really hard to make good work right now. And it's even harder to be that person who is making that good work. So I think having a place or a thing or something that is an outlet for your creative expression that's outside of advertising, that shows you have a point of view or shows that you're capable of thinking beyond a headline or beyond something as, small as an ad. Because I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is affect culture. And how does your work translate to that? How do the things that you care about, that you've found a way to monetize somewhat by being in advertising, give you the opportunity to do that? So it, one, illuminates, sides of creativity that so often aren't able to be explored through, a banner ad or a social post or something. And it gives insight to your mind. It also shows that you are a creative beyond the walls of advertising. And I think that's so important, that, as someone who's entering this space, that you aren't just a student of the business, but a student of something that drives you in and of itself. I think most of us on this call have found a way to be in advertising because it's fun and it's interesting and you get to be around a lot of great people, but it's not the thing that we're so passionate about. It's not what I would do if I won the lottery tomorrow, right? So I think having an interest that is not, just ads is really important.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you were touching on, that we don't all get to do the amazing Super Bowl spots and all the glamorous work. And sometimes it's tough if you're just breaking into the industry and you're doing, some of the smaller briefs to really get your creativity out. So really, like that. What about you, Bianca? I know Mischief clearly hires kind of top talent with amazing portfolios and attention to detail and craft, but do you also look out for side projects, or does someone with a side project maybe become a little bit more desirable?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with all the points Katelyn made. And I also think that sometimes it's hard to know the involvement of a creative in, some of the pieces of their portfolio. And when when you're looking at a side project, you're like, this is that person, this is who they are, this is all them, this is, how they think, kind of like how they package and, you know, an idea together without having like a whole agency in the structure of an agency behind it. You just get a little window on what the person is like. You see that they clearly are passionate about what, you know, what they do, because they're taking the time to do something beyond, you know, the day-to-day stuff. You see they're like just their sense of humor or their sense of purpose, and you get more into like a more of a window into who they really are, which is great. And so yeah, we do like it. We care about it, and it gets attention for sure.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You know, when looking at portfolios, whoever it may be, you see work on someone's book, but you don't totally know exactly what role they played in there. They were part of a larger team, which is, of course, what we're judged on and what we're supposed to be doing day to day. But when you get a side project, you really narrow in on their own craft, their own tone of voice. I know for me, you know, I started my podcast because there's that same logic. You send your portfolio, and even that, you know, you don't get to see the personality behind it, but letting people kind of talk for 20 minutes, 25 minutes about themselves, you start judging people off their personality. And I think that's kind of, to me, really what side projects are. It shows a little bit about your personality, who you are, what you care about. And sometimes if you're given a brief to work on whatever product, you're not picking that brief. You're just, you know, kind of doing what you're told. So what about you, David? You know, when trying to find talent to fill roles, are you looking at side projects? Are you looking at industry work? Are you looking at a little bit of both?
I mean, definitely, you know, I look at like, you know, the person as a whole. The side projects are really important to me for one reason, which is like part of my job, which is like is different than like an internal recruiter. Is like, I'm here to help you package yourself a little bit and really help you figure out like how to evocatively tell a story to people who literally are going to spend maybe 2 minutes initially looking at your work, right? And so when I look at a side project from somebody who works at an agency that maybe their proximity to good work, like Katelyn said, is not very close, what that tells me about that person is that they are somebody who are the sole arbiters of their career. Like they're somebody who are actively trying to figure out how to, if there's not an at bat, they make the at bat. And I think those people are the most exciting people to work with or work for, because I really think that, like, I don't know, there's this book I really like called Rockers and Mockers. And my favorite quote from it is like, the great ones give birth to themselves. You know what I mean? And so I think like showing that you're in a generative space, if your side project is amazing, that shows that the most important brand that you're working on, which is your own, is like, if you treat that with care and with specificity, then when you're internal at an agency, I think you'll do the same thing, you know? Long answer to a short question, but yeah, I think side projects honestly help me get to the soul of the person. And for me, I'm only interested in working with folks who know that the biggest ego in the room is the work. And that's the thing that's most exciting to me.
Yeah, I love that answer. I always laugh. I speak to a few friends of mine, and it's so funny in this industry, we're kind of paid to sell whatever the item is, but
Yeah.
we usually tend to be so bad at selling ourselves. Like some weird thing where you're so used to selling client briefs, so when it comes time to talking about you, everyone kind of panics and gets a little nervous. But I think that's where side projects kind of come in. You can sell yourself without talking about yourself. It's almost a less awkward way of doing it because you have this work as like a little bit of a funnel. Maybe Katelyn, do you know, of course, when people put side projects out in the world, they want them to be as great as they can be. But do you tend to judge people on the success or polished version of their side projects? You're really just glad that they're putting themselves out there and trying to do whatever it is.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking about this with someone at work today because we have so many examples of this within the office. And I was like trying to articulate some of our favorites. And there have been people whose side projects were making bootleg Mariah Carey t-shirts like in their basements, you know, and like, to me, that's something that's more interesting than some, you know, carefully curated like gag or joke that you sent to try and get an agency's attention. I want to see you doing it for yourself and not just to like impress me or impress someone at another agency, because it's genuine. And like David was saying, you're giving birth to yourself. I think that's like such an amazing way to put it. And it's like, you're putting something out there that you don't even care if anyone else cares. You don't care if anyone buys this bootleg Mariah Carey t-shirt that you made out of your basement, but like, it's cool, it's interesting, and it's designed well. And like, I think that's so much more risky than, you know, crafting some sort of expected thing for, you know, that's not self-serving in a way.
Yeah, totally. First, I definitely need a bootleg Mariah shirt. So we'll connect offline for that. But yeah, I was going to bring that up a little bit later, but I'll bring it now. You know, David, clearly this you know, whole award show and side projects in general have kind of now become what's expected from so many people. But do you think people are trying to, you know, break into side projects for the wrong reason? Like you were just talking about, Katelyn, they almost think they need one, so they put out some BS project and you kind of check off a list and move on.
I think sometimes I see a little bit of that. I mean, it really, to me, I actually like when I see side projects that, this sounds so horrible. This is being recorded. Side projects whose strategic, like, soul and base are flawed, because it makes me realize that that person hasn't thought those things through, and I learned something about that. You know what I mean? And I think side projects, in good and bad ways, give us data about you. I think that if you're throwing paint against the wall trying to get noticed, that is less interesting to me than somebody who really considers their audience, you know? And I think people who really think of not just craft, but like, how is this going to affect people's skin and blood real lives? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I always joke, like, and this is like, maybe I sound old, but like back when there was like the era of like digital agencies coming up, we were always like, I was so uninterested in electricity for electricity's sake, right? Like, if it didn't like have a soul, I thought it ends up being noise in the market. And so I'm like, God, again, long answer to short question. I'm interested in side projects that really definitely consider like strategically how they interact with people. And the ones that don't, I think, accidentally message poorly on your behalf.
Yeah, first, I'm here for the long answers, so
yeah,
keep them coming. But I think it's really important for everyone here who's listening, you know, don't rush to put out a side project. Don't put it out for, you know, just put it out there and get it out in the world. It's important to think through, you know, the logistics behind it. It's important to think through what it will become down the road. Don't do it for a week and then kind of think you've done your job and use that to apply places. You know, think through the output of it. Side projects are great, but it seems pretty obvious that, you know, if you are doing it for the wrong intention, people can kind of read through that. Yeah. And then, you know, Bianca, you were just touching on it before, that you thought for a while about what that perfect side project for you might be, but never really found it. You know, I wonder what advice, you know, all three of you would give to people who have thought about a side project, think they have something, but are kind of nervous to put it out in the world.
Yeah, to comment on a couple of things that this guy said, I think it's, and then that will also answer your question. I think for me, the side project can be something like sort of like random and fun that you don't need to like put that much crazy thought into it. But I also think it's valid and okay if it is to try to get our attention. I think it's kind of like us being good at selling other people and not being good at selling us. So if we can think smartly in a way to get someone else, some like, you know, an agent to pay attention to, you know, to you, I think that's great. The thing is, like, there hasn't been, I think, that many people that have done it in a way that was like, oh, that was nice, and not just like trying so hard that like was kind of falling flat, or just being like, okay, that's weird. But you know, I think that's okay. I do think that when it's done and it's kind of not coming through exactly what either like the purpose is or the idea is, or what, you know, why they're doing it, I think if I'm considering, I'll be like, oh, on the side project where they are the, you know, sort of the filter, or they have all the creative liberty that they have, if they're not being able to kind of either communicate whatever they want to or get to the purpose, or, you know, I mean, obviously it's relative a little, because depending on the thing, like those, you know, the t-shirts, that's just something fun, that's great, that doesn't need a purpose or it doesn't need any explanation. But when they're trying to get to some sort of point, and that kind of doesn't get through, I think it could not hurt you, but it could be like, oh, okay, I mean, let's see if this person, what else this person has done, or like how else they think.
Mhm.
And I think for me, yeah, like you're saying, I just didn't want to spend my time doing something that I didn't think was the right thing to spend my time on. Cause like, I was, most of the time I was trying to like think of side projects where when I was at JWT, that was like my first job here in the States. And we were always working so much. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do with that time? Like, that's going to be great. And I ended up not doing anything because I could never find the perfect thing to do. And I think like, that's just, that was just bad because I never did anything fun. So I think people shouldn't wait to find the perfect idea for them to bring to life, but just whenever they do, just think about the way you're going to bring it to life. Does it make sense? Is the wine crafted? And if even if like, I remember there was an art director at JWT that did this House of Cards, and it was for House of Cards, but instead of like, every scene of the show, they had like, they photoshopped something that was like a carb, like a piece of bread in the hand of like one of the characters, or like a slice of pizza. So it was just so dumb and like random, and people thought it was funny. And I remember like the CCO at that time like liked that, and it was like, oh, let's talk to that person. So that, that's funny and dumb. So that's okay. It doesn't need to have that much thought to it in that sense. But when they did it, they were like, okay, that's the hook. That's like, these are the images I'm going to put together, blog style, and that's it. So I just was always looking for something that was right, and I never did it, and which was dumb.
I think it is important, if you think about it and people have a side project, yes, it could be some lofty, amazing thing, or like you and, Katelyn was saying, and David too, it could be you just want to Photoshop, some funny comps. You want to write a funny headline to make people laugh. It definitely doesn't have to be something super serious to go and solve the world. It can just be a little something that makes you smile. It probably should be something that is just kind of silly, gets your personality across, lets you kind of flex your creativity. But then also, I think it's important to say, just for everyone listening, that we do work in an insanely demanding industry. And, at times there is just no time for a side project. And I think that's totally fine too. I don't think I'd want anyone after this to like look themselves in the mirror and panic that they don't have a side project, but they're working 70-hour weeks on their day job. I think like understanding that, if you can make it work, amazing. And it seems like, agencies definitely like seeing that. But at the same time, Katelyn, curious what you think, if there is someone who's working their ass off and has a nice portfolio, but there is no side project, they're still, looked at and taken seriously.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to say. And I think, you can be taken seriously, side project or not. But I think one of the things we all are very accustomed to in this business is hearing the word no. Whether it's your idea is not getting sold, someone not taking a job, like someone just telling you can't do something. And I think side projects are a way to cultivate resiliency too. And you're not always going to be good at everything. Like you could start a neon, sculpting, whatever class, you could suck at it. That's fine. You could start something else and then you're great. And that's cool. But I think trying new things that keep you sharp and keep you fresh are more important than finding something that's like going to be, award winning and impressive. I wouldn't go into side projects expecting an outcome. I would go into it thinking like, this is just going to make me a better creative overall. And I think, again, part of that is also like learning how to fail at something. Like I bought really expensive rollerblades the other week because I thought I was going to be a rollerblader, and I am fucking terrible. And you know what? I'm okay with it. But like, I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna try and make it a part of my personality. But if not, who cares? But I think that's a lot of things that I think is like really important to, help build our character is like, you might take up screen printing. It might not be for you, but showing the progress and the process and like how you got there and what you learned, I think is like just as important as actually coming out on the other side with something like, beautiful or finished.
Yeah,
I'd love to piggyback on that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I just want to echo everything Katelyn said, especially quitting rollerblading, because that's what I did. But like, I think like the other thing about it is, I don't know, like I think about when you put these side projects into the world and you're engaging in creative spaces that are outside of advertising. I'm like, how do we make advertising for real people if we don't know any? You know, like if we have like, if our context for the world is like really like if we're staying inside of our bubble. So like everything you're saying, Katelyn, is like I'm like cheersing because I'm like, how do we use that? Even if it's not, if it doesn't have an intention or doesn't have, or not intention, doesn't have it's not result oriented. Like it helps, it broadens your perspective and it makes your toolbox bigger for things that you can draw from, I think.
Yeah.
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 You know, you do side projects for yourself, right? You don't do them, you know, maybe you do them for other people if it's a service, but you don't do it to, you know, you're really doing it as your creative outlet and to, you know, broaden your horizon, like you just mentioned. And I interrupted you, Bianca, so take it.
No, I think Katelyn, you brought such a good point that made me think of a couple things. I think I was kind of referencing before side projects that you kind of like put in your portfolio as a side project versus like, yeah, like rollerblading, like some sort of like screen print, so something that you would do for yourself that like fulfills you. I think absolutely like do what makes you like, you know, a better creative person, or like that's going to be an outlet for like, you know, whatever you're going through at work or not, or for fun. Like, yes, like 100% do that for you. I think maybe when I was also in the search of a side project was always a little more like, okay, how can I stand out like as a creative in my portfolio? And I think that was like always what probably was not becoming like authentic. It was just not something that was coming like, you know, from me of something that I really like doing. And I think ultimately I just felt the pressure of like, my background is art direction. I need to be like arts and crafts, and I need to like be really into this stuff. And I just like playing volleyball, and I liked like traveling. And I didn't want to spend more time in front of a computer or doing anything else because I was already so dedicated to work. And I love doing what we were doing at work that I was like, I don't want to come home and like do like, you know, arts and craft or try to like do something else that's going to involve me like photoshopping stuff, because I like playing volleyball. And so I think that's kind of like the thing that comes to mind when you're saying that. It's very, very good point.
And I think, I guess it's, you know, with side projects to just be yourself. Like you said, you know, if you are an art director 13 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and you come back home, you don't want to sit at a computer and do more for a side project, you know, have it be something totally different. And I think I know the answer to this, but I assume, you know, Katelyn or David, Bianca, is it almost better if the side projects have nothing to do with your day-to-day role, or do you want to see a writer doing something writing related, or an art director doing something art direction related?
I think it really depends, you know. I mean, it's a bonus. Like if I see a writer that has an amazing Twitter, or like they're a stand-up comic, or they're doing something else that is somehow tangentially like aligned with like their profession, that's awesome. But like also it's really cool to see copywriters who are out there trying to figure out how to be more like visually adept, or how to see another person's perspective. You know, maybe they're doing something that's totally out of the box. That's like, I mean, we've had a couple copywriters like go on leave to work for political campaigns because they're like, I can write stuff, but like it has nothing to do with advertising, sort of, but like this is a way that I can give back and use my strengths in a way that, you know, benefits humanity, maybe. So that's really cool to me. It's like, as long as it's not necessarily doing good, but like you feel like you've got a good command of it, that's cool. Or if you're exploring, that's cool. But I think if you're a writer and you're doing something that involves writing and it's bad, maybe not show it off, keep it to yourself. But like, because it brings doubt. But if it's something that's out of your box and completely out of your realm of what you normally would do on your day to day, that's fucking cool. And if it's super elementary, that's cool too. Like, I think just showing range and, you know, prolificness is really important, more so than like perfecting it. But if it is in your wheelhouse, maybe treat it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm. I'd also say that, like, I mean, echoing everything you said, I also think that I'm excited when I see people who take on projects. It doesn't matter if it's within their disciplines, that radiates their value system and like what they give a shit about in the world. And that's always exciting to me because like I think to both of your points earlier, like you're the only client on this brief, right? And so like if you have the ability to like really put something in the world, you know, whether it's small or big, like whether it's like, you know, for good or for t-shirts, you know what I mean? I love to just, it is an opportunity to tell us an evocative story about yourself. And I'm interested in to know what people's souls are, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, you know, and you touched it also, Bianca. If you're going to go out and do a side project, you know, it's not the time to play it safe because that's when you really are judged. You know, there's no clients. You're the only person really involved to bring it to life. And if you kind of half-ass it or if you play it safe, it says a lot about you, you know. Now add clients, now add a real brief, you know, you're probably going to be forced into a way smaller bucket of creativity.
Yeah.
In addition to, you know, side projects, clearly there are so many other ways to get noticed. David, how have people gotten, you know, your attention recently? Is it, you know, does a bold email still work? Is it a funny cover letter, an interesting about me? You know, what do you see and then tell people to do?
I mean, I always say like use your real estate. Like, you know, if you're going to send an email, like, and you're a writer, boy, that better be a good email, right? Quick, concise, compelling. Those are the things that I like, and also just like, again, it's like another thing about like when you're selling yourself and you're trying to get in contact with a recruiter, I feel like the things that always, I mean, maybe this is like a very COVID response to this question. So everyone like take this with 1,000 grains of salt, but like, we get like 5 billion emails a day. Right. And so like if you send me an email and I can't like ascertain if you're an art director, copywriter, designer, or where you live, what your website is, you know what I mean? Like if I have to become Nicolas Cage and, American Treasure, and it's like to figure out what your career is, that is very, sorry, I'm going to skew this more positively. Folks who really understand that like there's another person on the end of this interaction. Like, it's not like you're not just sending it to like a chat bot in the void, you know what I mean? Like, and folks who often like lead and talk about, not lead with title or money. They talk about what they want to do next. Like what's the itch that's not getting scratched? And like, they talk about the kind of work they want closer proximity to. And those people to me are the ones that I'm like, let's get on a call.
Yeah, I saw Katelyn, you like nodding your head, agreeing totally.
Yeah, that's really true. It's that humanization of it all, I think, is really important. And I think it is one of these things where it's like, I don't care what your title is or your salary or like your that bravado that comes out very often in a first sentence of an email. I want to know like kind of who you are and what I should look at, and then we'll go from there. And it's like, I don't know, it's one of these things where it's like, it's so important that, like David said, that it goes both ways, because in conversation, what I have right now in front of me may not be the right thing for you, but like at some point in the future, it's like maybe those paths will align, and it would be, and I'm going to remember how you were a human on the other side of this conversation, and kind of who you're like, what you like to do, what makes you tick as a human being. And I think that's so much more important.
Yeah, I think understanding that, we're all humans at the end of the day. One, I, totally agree with the title and salary, like let it come to that. Anyone who's starting off with that will most likely, either be ignored or not get a nice response. That'll come, but first talk about, where you want to go and what you want to be. So, definitely agree on that. Bianca, what about you? Do you like the funny email or something to grab your attention? What stands out?
If it's short, I think it's good. I mean, now that I get to see all the like contact at mischief.usa.com, I'm like, oh man, like some of these are long. And I was laughing when David said that, like, if I cannot tell if you're an art director, copywriter, senior, junior, whatever, like whatever you are and what you're looking for. And some of them I'm like, oh, is this a count or is it like, I'm like, you just do not forget to put like your name, what you're looking for, like just like the very basic detail. Because I think we like to, go through those emails, and like it's going to be very hard for us to be able to judge from like what they write in the email. Obviously, sometimes we're like, okay, that was like sharp, and you can tell that the person has like, some like a good personality or a sense of humor, or whatever they're looking for. It's something that feels like we can offer, or a good match. But then we'll most likely just kind of like put on our spreadsheet where we'll put like, depending on the sort of role and level. And then once we're looking for someone for that position, like we'll just go through like, all of that. And so like that kind of like first quick, like who you are, where do I put you in this spreadsheet, so we can like go through every portfolio that comes in, and like is very important. And I think it is important when you've worked with someone that that we know, like you worked on at a place that it's just, I mean, ultimately you're getting like, hundreds of emails, and you want to somehow be like, oh, maybe I need to pay attention to this person a little more. Maybe I can ask like someone else about her. Maybe they worked at a place where I know some people. So like therefore say where you are now or where you were before, like quickly, just little like quick information that you're like, oh, they're working on account that they were doing some good work. Like this, let me check out this portfolio. So I think those like, it's more about the key information that you want to put there versus trying to be so clever or cool or different or like too much information. And then when it comes to this, to the actual portfolio, it's like 100% about the work, or 90% about the work, if not 100. And just, the content of the work more than how the site is designed, more like what, how the site that's like too hard to navigate and you're trying to go back to the nav, or like reading like blocks of copy before the campaign. It's like, I'm not going to read anything, just kind of like check out what the content is. So that's, I think, where our focus is most of the time.
Yeah, I think the long emails, especially knowing, you, and I'm sure most agencies kind of compartmentalize them, being able to pull out the key, points is really important. And then for everyone listening too, like if they don't get back to you right away, or if it's a no, Katelyn and Bianca, you both just touched it. It's not a no, I'm deleting and never looking again. Like, you go somewhere where if that role wasn't available at the time, maybe in a month it is. And then, they kind of go through it. Usually I think all of those kind of bold things people do are a little gimmicky, but I did see someone, which I loved. I just laughed at it, and I think he got a job. Someone Venmo'd a CCO like a $50,000 request for a junior copywriting role.
That was great.
That was like
great.
amazing.
I thought that was so funny. Yeah, I saw it somewhere. Yeah.
Would you encourage kind of stuff like that? You're talking about how bold your inbox is, to like move it away from the inbox.
I don't like that. I'm a very private person, and I've had a lot of Venmo requests, and mind you, I have a very generic name. If you were a woman born in the mid 80s, your name was Katelyn. And like Johnson is a very popular last name. My Venmo is like it's like Katelyn Johnson 465. It's like nothing to like write home about. And my photo is not even me. And the fact that like people have found me and then done things like this, it stresses me out a little bit, because it's just like, let's keep it in my inbox and not here. Like I'd like to have some semblance of my life that is not devoted to work. So I think when you bridge that personal space, to me, it's an invasion. Other people might like it, but I am not one of those people.
It's important to know there is kind of a line, if people were to do that, or now I've seen a lot of people, making TikToks or Instagram reels and like maybe going to the agency handle versus right when you kind of go directly to a recruiter, it's crossing the line of maybe going a little too far.
Exactly. And like echoing again, like David and I said earlier, remember this is a human on the other end of it. Like, I think it's cool when, like, I've seen the TikTok stuff. I think that's great. I think an interactive TikTok resume is genius. But like having it be like idolizing me is very different than idolizing an agency, or reaching out to me is very different than reaching out to an agency. And like, I am just a person behind a screen, and I will do my best to open the door for you into this office as much as possible. But like, yeah, the RGA tattoo. But like, it is one of these things, like, again, very private person, and I like to keep a little bit of my life just mine and not interrupted by wide angle.
No, I'm glad you're saying that. I saw David, you were clapping if you want to chime in.
I mean, I agree with you. Like fucking boundaries. You know what I mean? Like boundaries. I think also like again, it's strategy. Like know your audience, right? Like so, like going to your personal Venmo is weird, right? I would love to tell a story of one that worked that I thought was great when I was an internal recruiter, which is a very small one. It's a long time ago because there's a reference to the show 24. But when I worked at Leo Burnett, I had interviewed these kids right out of Westerdals, which is a school in Norway. And they had emailed me like, and I had wrote back and I was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. You better send me some Norwegian chocolate because I love Norwegian chocolate, whatever. 24 hours later, I got a ransom video from them, which was a suitcase filled with Norwegian chocolate and a blow dryer. And they were like, if we don't get internships, we're going to melt the chocolate. And it was done craft-wise. It was done. The writing was so funny. And it was like, obviously like tongue in cheek. It wasn't like an absurd ransom video. And I was like, holy shit, those kids are smart. And they got a job at Leo Burnett, New York, and now are like rich in Norway somewhere. And I feel like in that case, they're like, yeah, they used like a personal connection, but like it was about engaging with me about the work and not about like it didn't feel like someone was like slipping something underneath my door where I'm like, how did you get into the building? You know what I mean?
Totally. That's right. They listened to the conversation and, you mentioned you liked something and they took advantage of it. It wasn't creepily stalking and it's right, like you said, sliding something on your door. It's boundaries and understanding you're human. And it's almost a turnoff if someone goes to the extreme. So I think it's important even, for everyone to listen, to know the boundaries, kind of think in your shoes. If you were receiving all these applications, how would you kind of respond if someone took it a little too far and maybe crossed the line? But I think just the human element is like what's being echoed across the board, which of course, we shouldn't even have to say it should be a given, but understanding there's a person on the other side.
Yeah. Maybe I'm too Brazilian of like, we're all like up in each other's business and everything is okay. And like, I've been in the States for 11 years and I'm like, oh man, I'm still like very Brazilian, but I think maybe from your perspective, David and Katelyn, like your guys are like recruiters of like, amazing agencies. Everybody's probably like on your shit all the time. And like, I'm not a recruiter. So it's like, not that everybody's like sending me like all these tricks and trying to like text me something or like email me something or like 10,000 like, nudges. So like for me, like, I just thought it was like a clever, one of them, like one of those like, oh, that was clever. And like, it would get me to look at their portfolio. And if I don't like they Venmo the thing, I would just be like, decline, or not even like, okay, next, what am I doing? Like, it wouldn't be like, oh my God, like they found my name, because my name is out there and social media is out there. If I, like my Instagram is out there and some other stuff too. So that's where I'm coming from. But I understand from your perspective, it's almost like it's a lot, and it's probably like that's fully your job. So it's almost like you want more separation from just people trying to get your attention all the time in like whichever way possible. So which is great to know, because like from a creative perspective, I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny, and like I wouldn't think much more than that. It's not going to turn me off or going to make me like, I wouldn't hire them right away either. I would just be like, let me check their portfolio. That was kind of clever, period.
Totally. And I 1000% agree with you. I think I don't know, Katelyn, I don't know how you feel about this, but it's like different for us because I think the volume is a little bit higher, but like also, the gimmicks, and I always say the gimmicks have probably like waned in the last 5 years, but like one time someone sent me a vial of blood and it said, do you need new blood in your agency? And that was inappropriate. You know what I mean? Like,
someone sent me 12 thongs to my office and said, I've got creative briefs for you. And I had 12 thongs at my desk that I then had to be like, these aren't even nice. These aren't even good ones. Like, I can't.
I buy better underwear than this. Thank you.
It's on my side.
Had to put them in the clothing donation bin we have at the office. And people are like, you can't donate underwear. And I was like, I don't want these thongs. This feels holy waste. And then like one time someone literally sent me garbage, like actual garbage from like a fast food company or something. They're like, I can't remember what like the gimmick was, but it's like, and granted, I'm no Greta Thunberg, I'm no environmentalist. I try to be, but like I'm not at its heart. But it's like at the end of the day, if this is wasteful and it's a waste of your time, my time, and resources and money, then it's like you're not doing yourself any favors. I don't know.
Now, again, it seems similar to the side projects. It's like if you're going to go out of the way to put yourself out there, think it through. Don't be like, this is gimmicky and do it. And then it like backfires and you don't get a response and you're like blacklisted from whatever agency because you like went way too far. Just think it through. If you ultimately want to do it and there's a purpose behind it and it comes across in a good way, then go ahead. But be respectful, understand there is a human seeing this, whatever this is on the other side. So be respectful. And if you want to put yourself out there, go for it, but understand there are repercussions, of course.
Yeah.
And then I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I feel like I'm not even looking for a job and I'm on LinkedIn more than any other platform, which I just find bizarre. But where would you recommend people start looking? The job market is opening up. Agencies are hiring, whether or not it's, agencies or that you guys work at are looking to hire. Where would you recommend people, go to seek out these kind of job postings?
Thepresidency.com.
That's it.
That's it. Thanks. End of Zoom, everybody. I always say this, like, your network is as big as you want it to be, and like if you want to know Bianca and you want to know Katelyn, like you could do that. You know what I mean? Like if you want to, like if it's your job to get to know people in, like obviously like LinkedIn's a good place, but also like engaging with the work. And if there's somebody who you think is impressive and you like their work and you're fanning them, I would message them and say that, you know what I mean? And I think Katelyn, I don't know if you would agree with this, but like I'm sure a million creatives at Whiten like send you emails or forward you emails from people that reach out to them to talk about their work, right? And I think
all
like
the time.
Exactly. And I feel like I feel like networking in a way that is about the work and about like, trying to connect to people and really being like, again, like, like giving birth to yourself. Like if you want to work at Whiten, you need to email Katelyn Johnson or Lauren Rinke. That's it. You know what I mean? And so, or thepresidency.com. But I think by and large, like you really have to do the work of really like making contact with people that you love. Because when I don't know one creative that gets an email that's like, I loved Sandy Hook Promise, that would be like, why did you send me an email? You know what I mean? Like they'd be so excited, right?
As long as it's not Venmo, as long as it's not. But you guys can send me some money too. I won't mind it, really.
Yeah.
So it's totally okay. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. Like reach out. People like ask me like, especially like a lot of residents also ask me about like moving to the States or how to talk to people here. Like and it's almost like I wish there was more of a secret than like network and go after people and just like bother them. Obviously know your limit. The person that didn't reply twice, just let it go, try someone else, like, or, have someone see if they would introduce you to someone else, like, or just try that stuff. But I reply to like every single message I get. It could be in 2 months because I will flag them and they'll be like nagging me until like I just say, I got it or whatever. But you'll find people that will definitely try to help or reply or
I think that's important. Back to the respect thing. How many, if someone reaches out and you don't answer, they wait a few days, send again, like what's too much?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it all goes back to the humanization of it. Would you text your friend that many times in a row if they didn't respond like immediately because they're working? I think that's part of it. And I think just going back to that one thing we were just talking about, I think if you do reach out to someone at an agency, don't expect to get something in return. Like, they don't owe you a portfolio review. They don't owe you anything necessarily. but it'd be great if they did. And I think it starts with that common thread in their work. You saw something in their work that you love. Or one of my favorite anecdotes lately is there was this junior creative that reached out to Carl, who's our global CCO, and said, hey, I'm about to quit to my boss, and you're the only person I know in the world who's ever quit to this man. How did you do it? And I think that was such a genius way to like get in with, and like Carl gets a million emails a day. And like something in that like piqued his interest where he was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And that kid got in and got FaceTime with someone who's very influential in the industry. And I think it helped him get to where he is today. And like, I think that's an interesting thing, because it wasn't that he was looking for something. He was just looking for a common thread and a piece of advice, and, you know, a very human way into someone's inbox and brain.
Can you tell when people kind of have like that template email that they send to 6 other recruiters?
Oh yeah, when they're like, hey,
Font's always
Daniel.
fucked up. Like,
Yeah, some of the like writings in purple versus black, or also just being like, hello underscore David, I would love to work at the presidency, which is not an agency. But yeah, I mean, I think like, I get like, yeah, everything Katelyn said, I mean, like, it's like, again, like the human on the other end, but also like, if somebody like, it's hard. I think there's a difference between like a creative director or an ECD being like, this is not a fit, and then a recruiter saying it. Like, we're paid to have a curatorial eye so that like our ECDs don't have to wade through a lot of stuff, right? So if I say something like, here's a great example, I said something to somebody very recently where I was like, thank you so much for reaching out. I don't think this one's a slam dunk, but I'd love to stay in touch for futures. And that person wrote back, who the fuck are you to adjudicate my work? And I was like,
Okay.
I mean, I'll never rep you now, right? I'll remember that. But like, I've been in experiences like that recently where I was like, hey, this one's not a slam dunk, but let's stay in touch. And then I'll be like, that person will write me back like a month later, be like, hey, I saw this thing. And then I'll place them and be like, oh yeah, like we're just like none of this is about, like, none of this is personal. Like we're just like, we internally at agencies and as headhunters, we have so many different criteria that we're trying to fill that we just actually can't put on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like every interaction you have with the recruiter, an ECD, anybody, remember that the only thing that precedes you is your reputation. And if you take a shit, people will know, because Katelyn will tell you, there's not that many of us creative recruiters and we all know each other. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'm about to
Yeah,
text you after this and see who fucking said that to you. 'Cause
I know, but that's all it takes. Like now, like, you know, now that whenever we look at someone that we're like, oh, this person is interesting, like, let's talk to them. Or even after we talk to them and we see like, okay, they've worked at whatever, like, you know, Wyden, I might just go to you or any friend that like I have at Wyden and be like, hey, what about, you know, Judy? And all it takes is being like, meh. And I'd be like, okay. So not like, I won't go to the second person or the third person. I'll just be like, she was that. And it could be for like one. So it's almost like it's very, very important that you that you're responsible with those moves. And even if you're like, yeah, that person is a little creepy, they were like after me for like, you know, weeks and weeks, I'll just be like, oh boy. Like, and maybe the person was just like, okay, they just wanted your attention. But it's, so yeah, you need to make sure that you're not, you know, doing anything that's going to jeopardize that.
It's a small industry. Everyone finds out what, you know, your real kind of intent is.
Yeah.
And if you're an asshole, everyone knows and will find out. And like you said, David, maybe you find out right away, or maybe you find out a month in, but you know, everyone figures it out one way or another. So just understanding we're human and like be nice to work with. We all work way too hard and long hours to be with people we don't enjoy. I am respectful of everyone's time. So I have one question, then a few rapid questions. The first one, just because people were wondering, is what some of your side projects are, what you kind of do outside of work. So I don't know if, you know, maybe Katelyn, you want to start of just what you kind of do.
I'll start. I inherited this gene from my father where I get really into certain things and then I just abandon it. So my side project is like, like right now, the rollerblading thing was like my last thing. But like last year I took up beading and I made a bunch of jewelry during COVID, some of which ended up in some friends and some friends' children. And I sold some to other people, but then it got a little too big. And then I was like, need to dial this down. I collect a lot of different vintage pieces. I'm like a hunter gatherer by nature, I think, if not by my job description, but also by the way my closets are right now. I collect like vintage like Crusade cookware, not the original line, but this one specific partnership with an Italian architect that they did in the mid 70s. I also collect vintage bootleg band t-shirts, which is perfect anecdote from earlier, mostly from the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. But you know, the more bootleg they are, the better. So I try and chase things, bring me enjoyment and find inspiration and all of that.
I love that. I'm laughing because I have a skateboard that I got for my birthday 3 weeks ago, sitting by my door. I've used it like 4 times, almost broke my, ankle, foot, something each time. I'm like, maybe no skateboard is probably safer.
Let's meet up. Let's wheel or blade or whatever.
All around, yeah. I'll just hold on to a string, a rollerblade holding on.
Yeah. It gave me hope for this. So I went on a walk to I do like an afternoon walk to clear my head before the end of every day. And I was down by the river and there was a woman about our age rollerblading or roller skating, holding on to the thing. And I was like, I'm not alone. Yes. And I wanted to befriend her so badly that I was like, I cannot be that creep that's like, hey, want a blade? Yeah. So I think it's important to, like, going back to it, just put yourself out there. If you've got something and it's weird and you don't know if people are into it, like, someone's into it and someone's going to be supportive, and like, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, they'll help you get better at that thing too, if you're not,
Yeah, I agree. Just put yourself out there. Bianca, what about you? What do you do outside of
Right. Yeah. Right now, the time that I have left from like not working is spent with my 2.5-year-old son. He is my second project and my third and my fourth, and what literally takes every single minute of my life that I'm not working, which is amazing. But I've been learning a lot about every single name of like a truck and like words in English that I would never learn if I didn't have a son, like the names of dinosaurs and stuff, because I would never use that. I mean, like, literally, this is like the floor of my living room. It's like all the trucks, and I'll just say like, oh, this is a bulldozer, and he'll be like, it's a front row, and I'm like, I don't even know, I didn't know this was a name of like a truck. What is that? So yeah, there's a lot of that happening. Before having a kid, I got a lot into like plants and gardening, and as much as you can do in a Brooklyn apartment. So to like propagating succulents, and then I would get crazy. Like, once I get into something, I just go like full on, and then like I want to be the best person in that thing. That's, I think, part of like me trying to figure out what is the thing that I'm gonna do, because like I'll go full on. And then like before that, we were moving to a new place. I was like all about decorating, and then finding the right furniture and like all of that stuff. Then I'll go crazy with like, I'll take a photo of the whole apartment and then like Photoshop together like the pieces of things that I want to buy on the wall, and then I'll figure out if it works. So like I'll just do that stuff. But kind of like in phases, like Katelyn is saying, like they'll last until I feel like, okay, I've done it and now I need to like do something else. And I've just always liked playing sports, volleyball, hate working out, like just like sports with the ball with other people. And that's it. But mostly my son right now. That's all I do.
Yeah, that's great. And I have a 1.5-year-old nephew, and same thing. Every truck, car, toy.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. What about you, David? You said stand-up comedian, trying to be?
Yeah, I mean, the joke that I say is that advertising has accidentally turned into my side project, because I left the agency world like as a full-time like employee 7 years ago to pursue like writing and stand-up, and so like, yeah, I perform all around town here in New York, and I was on a house team at Upright Citizens Brigade, and I write pilots and a movie and like, and it's so successful. I'm still in advertising. Yeah, no, I really, previous to advertising, the funny thing is like, I got into advertising on accident. I ran a theater company in Chicago for like a decade, and I got a job at Leo Burnett because I was nice to a recruiter when I was working at a coffee shop, and was like a receptionist at Leo Burnett, and then like got into creative recruiting like in this huge fucking accident. And so yeah, like it's interesting. Like I derive like most of my creative like passion. I get it all externally from advertising, but it makes it really helpful for me. Like in what I do is that like talking to creative people is easier for me because I'm also a creative person and like went to art school and like understand like that creative people, like I understand, I feel like I understand the soul of creative people. So long story short, I get paid in drink tickets to tell jokes about my dog.
It's always fun. Love that too. Again, just I think it's important for everyone, whether you turn it into a side project or not, to like find the things you love to do outside of work. Again, I keep saying it, but we work so hard that like you'll go crazy if you don't have something outside of work to turn your brain off for a little bit. I know I cook. I like building things with my hands, Legos, like anything to turn my brain off for a few minutes, because otherwise I'll just constantly be thinking of work. So I think it's important to find what those things are. Again, if it's not an actual side project, just passions, hobbies, things you like to do outside of work. I have one question for each of you quickly, and then asked if anyone else has questions, and then I will let you all go and get back to your lives. First, David, for you, so I've spoken, I've interviewed a ton of people who are looking to get jobs. Thought of a few questions kind of based off that. First one, a lot of people are looking for jobs and they're unsure if they should commit to full-time or freelance. Do you have, any suggestions, or have you seen people being now maybe more open to freelance versus full-time?
I mean, I have a complicated reaction to that, which is that I think freelance projects, while you do get a sense of what the agency is, pre-COVID, you would like get to walk in and understand the ecosystem. I think sometimes freelance, they might put you on some more reactive projects versus something a little bit juicier. So like, I feel like I would say that if your intentions are to get into the next version of your career, I think that thoughtfully thinking about full-time is the way to go. I mean, it's a freelance market right now. It's like very hot. That bubble will burst. You heard it here first. But I think that you should, in this post-COVID time, the questions that you should ask yourself are, will my full life be balanced? Will I get better at what I do? Will I learn from somebody? And will I get paid? And if you can't say yes to 3 of those things, don't do it.
Yeah, I love that. Do you see most people who you kind of reach out to want remote, or are open to going back into an office?
I tell every single one of my clients that if you open it up to remote, your candidate pool increases by 300%. Like by and large, like we have now like demystified that working remotely actually can work. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, y'all work in agencies, so disagree with me if you'd like. But I think as we all decentralize career from our identities, like realizing that we don't actually have to go into be in the same space 5 days a week for 40 hours. I think like if agencies are more inclusive to people's real lives and how that is shaped differently, some people want to live closer to where they grew up, and that place might not be New York City or LA, so I would say, like, from my perspective, as somebody who helps agencies get talent, if I put a post on LinkedIn that says remote versus needs to be based somewhere, I get like definitely 300 times more responses if it's remote.
Yeah, I mean, the talent pool is just so much larger too. But yeah, it's interesting what you said, maybe, agencies, it's a little bit different than for you who are placing people, you can put out the feeler of remote and then take it from there. Bianca, you clearly know it well, but there's so many kind of smaller agencies opening up. Knowing you did, 10 plus years at a big agency, would you recommend younger talent who are kind of just breaking into the industry look at some of those smaller shops, or do you think, kind of that bigger agency is probably better off for starting your career?
I don't think it's a matter of like a small agency or a big agency. I think it's about who you're going to be working with and for and on what. Every agency like has people that are miserable and has people that are happy. So I think it's really not about the size of the agency. Like, don't look at that. It won't matter.
And remote or going into an office?
I agree with all the points that David was making. Like, I'm curious to see what's going to happen when like half of the people are in, half of the people are out. I think people are like, I don't want it to go back to being like, you know, a place where everybody needs to be in. I think we need to like adapt and see how it's going to work. So I think offices might need to change as we're building our office. We have like now rooms, like meeting rooms, or we're like, okay, this room needs to be a room where we can like log in on Zoom, for example, and be like perfect. Like you can hear everybody, you can see everybody from all sides. Like, you know, so like you're not like in that situation where you have like some people are in like a Zoom and like they can barely hear what's being said in the meeting room. And so like they need to be also like think that way and build the spaces to function that way. And then I think it can work. But we already hired people that don't want to move to New York, even though our office is here. It is going to be you know, here, and it's okay. We think it's about getting the, you know, the talent that's a good fit for us and that's for them, and then we're going to just make sure that the workplace adapts to how people work the best, because that's just the smartest thing to do for everybody.
Yes, it's like what you said, David. You know, go after the best talent and figure it out. We've proven that the work from home works, and at the end of the day, if there's a huge client meeting and someone's got to come in for a day, that's easy. But you know, getting and hiring the best talent means being flexible and open to, you know, making it work for both sides. And then Katelyn, for you, sorry to put you on the spot, but I've interviewed like over 100 people for my podcast. The last question I always ask is, what's a dream agency? And over 75% of them say Wyden. It's to the point where it's like a little creepy now, but what can people do to get noticed? I'm sure they email, we know what not to do, but like what's, you know, and maybe it's not even to get into Wyden and contacting you, but what could they do for their portfolios or side projects to begin building up a good enough resume?
I think, you know, touching back on a point I made very early in this chat, I think as long as you show your resiliency as a creative and that you can be this bottomless pit of ideas and have a point of view on the world, I think that's the most important thing. And have a point of view on your work. I think being someone who is obsessed with awards and obsessed with the industry and obsessed with advertising isn't going to do you any favors, because we want to see that subversiveness. We want to see like you take the piss out of this industry sometimes, and we want to see how you are creative and like what you do to have fun outside of this and what you're going to bring to the table that is different than 400 other people are bringing already. So I think doing something there's no cookie cutter way to get in the door. I think just being your authentic self is honestly the most thing and the most important thing, and owning that and being comfortable in that and not, you know, trying to make your creative self like or modeled after someone else. Take cues, sure, but still hold true to like who you are and, you know, what your instincts are.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you know, you just can't take yourself too seriously. It's advertising. You got to have fun.
It's advertising. It's so funny. I was talking to like my recruiting coordinator. He's going to Mexico for a couple of weeks, and he was like, I put on my out of office, if it's an emergency, call 911. And I was like, yeah,
That's
call
amazing.
911.
Is there such thing as a recruiting emergency?
Exactly. It's like, it shouldn't be, but people think it is. But like, I thought that was just like such this like moment of levity I needed during a Monday already. But like, you know, not taking yourself too seriously, not taking this job too seriously. Yes, it's important, but in some ways, but at the end of the day, we're not curing COVID. We're not curing cancer. We're not going to Mars. It is small potatoes. But yeah, just be yourself.
Yeah.
And try and have fun. It shouldn't be like, obviously we got into advertising because it was better than going into finance, right? Because you can have more fun and you can be yourself and be creative and be wacky and do all these things. And it's like, if you're not doing that, what's the point?
Yeah, the most important thing is that it's like the sort of be yourself, because sometimes they're like, oh, that's like what they want, someone wacky, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna like write this email, or it's like, oh, I'm gonna be very serious, I'm gonna be very, very polite. And if you're not that person, then you cannot put, like, you're not gonna be successful. Maybe you're gonna get in the door, and then you're just not gonna be able to like maintain whatever persona you're trying to be. And sometimes like it's okay to not be that like a crazy person or whatever. Like, you just have, like, when you're bringing your true self, I know it sounds cheesy and horrible, but it's like you're just like gonna bring your authentic personality and perspective on the world, and that's great. That's what people want.
And I think in this industry specifically, you get hired because of who you are. And you know, like if you come off as one way, and that's why I'm hiring you and I bring you to the agency, and then you're totally different, like that's not why I hired you and not why I brought you in. So I think it is more than any other, you know, industry, you know, be yourself, own who it is. And if that gets you in the door, continue being that. And if it doesn't, there's an agency out there that will need that. And that's where you'll kind of shine. Amazing. Well, appreciate you all for hopping on. Really, and I know we went, you know, a few minutes over, and appreciate you all for hopping on late on a Monday. So thank you all. This was great. I don't think anyone had any questions, but if any of you did, unmute yourself and shout now, otherwise too late. No, I think that's it.
This was great. Yeah, this was great. Thank you, guys. Thank you, David and Katelyn. It was awesome to hear you guys also, and very
It's good
insightful.
seeing you. It's been so long.
Yes, it has. It has. I'm glad. This was a good reunion. I can't believe. A shout out to Hope, who has like thousands of side projects that are amazing. Maybe I should check it out. Who's here watching us too?
Yeah, thank you all for hopping on.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate it. No one told me to plug the rest of the Creativity Week events, but I guess I should. I think they're going on all week. So go on the Sideshow website and you'll be able to sign up for all the other ones. I think it's the same, you know, sign up process as this. So go and do that and keep an eye out for the winners, which I think are announced at the end of the week. And yeah, thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. So good to see
Thanks,
you all.
guys.
Good luck,
Bye.
everyone.
Good luck. Bye.
Let the last few people click off. Thanks, everyone.